Welcome to another edition of the Fireside, hosted by GH Scientific. We are a membership community-based organization building capacity in science, technology, engineering, and math for the progress of Ghana and beyond. Tonight's edition is with a very special guest by the name of Rita Kusi. She is I like to use the word veteran in the human resources field, and more specifically recruitment. She is the CEO and senior consultant at a boutique international digital human resource and marketing company, highly respected and knowledgeable, as well as passionate and strategic human resource professional with over 18 years experience in the field. And so when we were contemplating putting on tonight's edition and was around careers and CVs, personal statements, what to be looking out for, what the job market is looking like at the moment. We didn't have to think twice about the person to get on tonight's call, and it was huge thanks to you, Rita, that you've been available to engage with our audience tonight, and of course share all the valuable insights that you have over your years in recruitment and human resources field. We are on Zoom and also streaming live on Facebook. So as we go into the conversation, if anyone has any questions, please do put in the chat on the Facebook Live or in the chat box on the Zoom, and we will open up microphones later on for any questions as well. I will let Rita talk a bit more about herself and her experience. I know she based in a couple of countries, maybe 3. I think it could be 3. I'll let her do all the introduction herself. Certainly cannot do her justice. So jumping straight in, Rita, thank you once again. We can see you're out and about. So just briefly, tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to Ghana, and how you came about into the role of the field of human resources.
Sure. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Sandra, I love your accent. I feel like you already really introduced me and then everything that I do. So like you mentioned, I've been in HR for a little over 18 years. I'm working for corporate America, and I moved to Ghana almost 10 years ago, actually, where I established a consultancy. And we leverage digital. We leverage technology to be able to do the work no matter where we are. So.
Okay, great. So most of our audience are predominantly from the STEM industry. A little person on the background. They're mostly from the STEM industry. Most of them as well early career researchers, or probably just out of university or undergoing postgraduate education. So if we start off really from what the job market in Ghana is looking like at the moment, can we just get an insight into the current situation with the job market?
Okay, I just got in a car, so I'll be stable for a little bit. Job market in Ghana. Yeah, I want to talk a bit about HR in Ghana. I think HR in Ghana is definitely picking up. Whereas before, I think when I moved to Ghana, I feel like there wasn't much attention on the field of human resources, but that seems to have changed, over the years. And the job market in Ghana, I mean, everybody knows that it's tough, especially for the youth. Getting the youth employment is been a challenge, but I'm very hopeful that that's all going to change, sooner than later. There are jobs out there. I just think you have to be, especially when you are young, right? Like, you have to be strategic in terms of putting yourself out there, showcasing yourself, making sure that you develop not just your hard skills, but your soft skills to appeal to employers. So there are jobs, but you have to really just make sure that you upskill yourself in order to be able to be that best fit candidate that employers are looking for.
Okay, so if we take a step back, we're saying the youth for the young people. If we take a step back to the way the Ghana educational system is structured, so usually if you're in the West, you may be getting Saturday jobs or some evening jobs per 16. We don't really have that system in Ghana, at least not that I'm aware of. So for someone coming out of secondary school or in secondary school, they were in a boarding facility, at least most people are. So at what point can they really start getting some of these soft skills that they can help with their CVs with for when they're out of university or whilst they're still at university?
So I want to even start at the junior high school level. I think when you are in high school, you tend to pick up little side jobs. I always tell people, I'm like, look, even if it's helping your mom at the shop, like all those skills really can translate onto your CV, right? When you're in college, if you help throw parties, if you were the one that managed the money at the, if you throw parties and you help manage the finances, I mean, that's accounting, that's finance. University students graduate and they say, oh, experience, but I refuse to believe that. You had to have done something while you were in school that can translate into your skills, right? And when we talk about soft skills, I mean, those are like everyday skills that you possess. Hard skills are more technical. It's like I know how to type. Those are things that you can learn. Soft skills, I think you nurture that just based on dealing with engaging people, networking, making sure good comfortable. So everybody has their own set of skills, but you have to nurture the one that makes you a unique individual, right? And then anytime you're applying for a job, the employer tells you specifically what they are looking for, the kind of candidates that they're looking for. And you have to translate those skills to become that person, especially if you want the job.
Okay, so at what point really, for those in a professional setting already, or for the older brothers and sisters on the call who perhaps have successfully managed to navigate their way into the employment space, at what stage really should we be encouraging young people to be thinking about what their CV, having a CV ready post undergraduate or post SSC if you then decide to go into the employment space? How early do we need to be making young people aware of the importance of some of these soft skills and documenting any little experience they get in, which can help boost their CVs when they're job ready?
Yeah, I will go back to that high school stage. You don't need to have a CV put together at that stage, but you should be documenting, document the things that you're doing that can translate into the skills that I mentioned. Write down what is it that you're doing that feels like work, that feels like, a skill that you can transfer to the real world, right? So documentation, and then when you get to university, you can build up on that. But by the time you get to that like junior level, that's the year that I would say you turn before you become a senior, you should already have a CV put together, right? You should have used those skills that you started developing in high school. And by the time you get ready to leave university, you should have started looking for a job. You should have been doing internships. You should have done volunteer work. So I always tell the youth, make sure you can do as much as you can, right? You don't want to do too much and exhaust yourself, but find those things that you're passionate about, that you like, and get into volunteering, get into internships. You may have to do it for free. There's nothing wrong with that. It's called paying your dues. You have to pay your dues, and then by the time you're ready to leave university, you have a fully packaged CV that tells the employer that you've done something. You've done something. But also on the university level, you can include your academics, right? So your education, extracurricular activities that you took part in while you were in school, all those should be highlighted just to make you a more appealing candidate. So that's what I would say about that.
Right, thank you very much. We're going to
Sure.
come over to your personal journey shortly.
Okay.
For anyone listening to us live on Facebook, this is Geeks by the Fireside. co-hosted by Geoscientific. I'm Dr. Hephzi Tagoe, and on the call with me tonight is Rita Kusi, who is a senior HR consultant at a boutique international digital human resource and marketing company. Our conversation tonight is around career prospects, CV, personal statement, the job market in general, employability skills, and how you can really prepare yourself, whether on a set career path or transitioning between different career sectors. So we're heading back to Rita now to hear a little more in depth into your personal journey. Are you Ghanaian? Let me start from there.
I am Ghanaian. I was born in Bolga, but I grew up in Old Tafuk-Mase. So I'm 100% Ghanaian born. Just happened to grow up. Yes, I'm Ghanaian.
Okay, so Rita is very much Ghanaian, although she may sound very Yankee-ish. So,
Ghanaian, 100%.
Yes, you returned to Ghana, did you say about 8 years ago? I missed that bit of the conversation.
I returned to Ghana in 2013. So 9 years ago. Next year will be my 10 years in Ghana.
Excellent. So you're clearly
I returned to Ghana. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your journey into human resources. You did mention earlier on that it's taken a while for the field to...
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Sorry, you broke up slightly. Can you repeat?
Yes, I'll take that again. I was saying that you had mentioned earlier on at the start of the conversation that it took a while for the human resource field to catch on or to be a thing in Ghana. So what was it like for you initially when you made the move trying to go into that human resource space?
So, when I first moved to Ghana, I think human resources was more administrative, where people were more about the paperwork, it was more about recruitment mainly and just the administrative. But HR in itself has evolved over the years. HR is now strategic. HR has become a business partner to the business, where it's like we have a seat at the table. We've gone from administrative to now having a seat at the table. So I think when I came to Ghana, a lot of HR professionals were more on the administrative end, whereas now, like, they are, business partners. They're doing more for companies, saving the money, making sure that they're developing the workforce, right? Implementing policies. Unfortunately, we implement policies and it may not always be used within the organization, but yeah, HR has become more strategic. I think the challenge that I faced, and I may still face it somewhat, is the fact that we're completely digital. You know that our part of the world, we're more about that face-to-face interaction. We're more about, and it's a good thing, don't get me wrong, but I think HR now is learning to use or leverage technology, especially after the pandemic. We've been forced to do that. We've been forced to do that. And that was a challenge for all of us HR professionals to be able to learn. So for me personally, and for my business, like, the pandemic was actually a good thing because it allowed us to get clients who were outside of Ghana, where we were operating from, right? Because now everyone's like, hey, let's jump on Zoom, send me files through email, right? So it's become more receptive in Ghana. And I think HR is more strategic and also a main part of the business. And I love that companies are now focused on human resources to develop their staff.
Right, okay, thanks for sharing that. So for a science student or an early career STEM professional wanting to consider their options in human resources, how does that career trajectory look like? What should they be thinking about?
Interesting enough, I didn't go to school for human resources. I went to school for marketing, and I somehow ended up in human resources. And the same advice that I'm giving to the young people, it had to really do with me being persistent, needing a job. And I happened to apply to be an assistant to the human resource director of condominiums in New York. And the day that I called him to follow up on my CV, he actually had it in front of him. So I don't know if you want to call that luck, good timing, but I was persistent. I didn't just apply for the job, but I followed up on it. I spoke to the key person who I would be working with. And before I knew it, I had the job. And he was so happy with the work that I was doing that 6, 7 years down the line, I was promoted into a director's role. I didn't even go through the whole management process. I just, for any young people considering human resources, it's not a glamorous role, because human resources, we are counselors, we are mentors. We literally are there to keep the organization and the people together, make sure that the employees understand the objective and that they are working towards the objectives of that business. So make sure that you have a passion for it. Make sure that you have a passion for wanting to help people and wanting to make companies better, by implementing policies, not just creating them, but making sure that the policies work and that they're effective. So you, just like with any field, you have to have some passion for it. And the field of HR is so dynamic. There's recruitment, there's onboarding, there's payroll, there's performance management. So there are so many different functions or stages. There are about 9 within that whole HR function. Know what you're good at, know what you want to do, and then pursue that. Don't try to do everything, but pursue what it is that you're good at, and know the law. So there's a Labor Act 638 in Ghana. If you know that, then I think you'd be a good, HR person, because then you have to make sure that you are in compliance with whatever you're doing for the organization.
Great, excellent. So am I right in presuming that you place candidates as well in job roles?
I'm sorry, say that again. Place candidates?
You help place candidates in job roles, is that correct?
Yes,
okay.
That's correct. That's actually one of the main services that we provide is recruitment. And the great thing about it is, like, I'm here. I'm in New York now. I have a client in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is about a 4 or 5 hour flight, and I've never met them. I've never met the client, but yeah, I've hired probably about 8 individuals for them since December. So yes, one of the main services that we provide is recruitment.
Okay, so the different countries like their CVs or resumes to look a certain way. So if we come to the Ghana market, let's start with the length of CVs, because that's one that's always open to conversation based on where you're at. So in the Ghana market, ideally for someone starting out in the career path, how many pages or how long does your CV need to be?
That's actually a great question, because that's a conversation that we have all the time, and it's a relevant one. So in the US, it's called a resume, and let me take the mask off. I'm outside. Hold on a second. So in the US, the resume is usually, especially for entry level, is usually a 1-pager, right? And for mid level, about 2 to 3, and then for seniors, probably about 3 to 5. I come across candidates in Ghana who are entry, but then they have like a 10-page. I'm telling you, I've come across 10-page CVs. I'm like, this is too long. There is, hold on, you can hear me, right? I'm trying to fix my headset.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So there is an act to creating your CV. Hold on. Putting my headsets back in. There is an act to creating an effective CV. If you are applying for a job and the job is marketing, and you've had 5 jobs in, like, I'm just gonna say accountant, but then 2 jobs in marketing, you want to highlight the marketing role and not necessarily the accounting, right? You want to highlight your experiences and the jobs that you've had that pertain to the job that you're applying for, right? Because that's what the employer really wants. That's what they want to see. So for anyone who's entry level, I strongly advise you not to have a CV that's more than 1 page. When you think about it, like, what are you gonna put on it? You know, what were your list your most recent employments, maybe 2-3 bullet points of what you did that really pertains to the position you're applying for. Just keep it. So there's an acronym called KISS. It's keep it simple. The last part is keep it simple, stupid, but it's not, it's not a bad thing. Yeah, but that's really the key. When it comes to resumes, you want to keep it simple and get straight to the point, because recruiters and employers, they don't want to read. I don't want to read a 5-10 page CV if I don't need to. I just want an objective. Why are you applying for the job? I want to know where you got your education, your qualifications, and what you've done in the past. It's okay to include, like, awards, or some of your achievements. That's gonna help you get the job. But just keep it simple and straight to the point. In Ghana, we use more of the CV, curriculum vitae, which is more the UK style, right? So you see a lot of CVs with people's personal information, date of birth, their religion, their sex, how many kids they have. Like, employers really don't need to know that. You do not need to include those things on your CV, because it could work against you. It could work against you, okay? So that's what I would say about that.
Right, thank you. If there's anyone on the Zoom or on Facebook Live who has any questions while the conversation is going on, do please just raise your hand, and the first hand has gone up already, or you can put the question in the chat, both on Facebook and in the Zoom, and one of the team will pick that up. Okay, Joseph.
I want to answer questions, so please bring on the questions. Let's
Yes.
go.
Right, Joseph, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Right. Thank you very much. Please, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, please. You said if we include our details in terms of our age or sex or all these things into our curriculum vitae, it will work against us. That is, if I hear you right. Please, can you throw more light on that particular aspect?
Yes.
How is it going to work against us, please?
Okay, I feel like it doesn't give you a chance to get your foot in the door. When you apply for a job, the objective really is to get an interview, because that's when you get to really showcase yourself and your skill set, right? Your personality. The employer gets to pick up your personality. The thing about recruitment is employers actually tell us exactly the kind of candidates they're looking for. It's not everything that us recruiters list on the job description, because some of it could be discriminatory, so we don't list it. For instance, they'll tell you, I'm looking for someone who is between the ages of like 35 and 40. If you're giving me your date of birth, automatically I'm not even going to call you for an interview, because then you're not within the age range. But if I don't see your date of birth and I end up interviewing you, and you are this amazing, awesome, qualified person for the job, that got you in the door, okay? The same as if you're gonna tell me I'm married with like 5 kids, the employer is gonna think, wow, are they gonna have the time? Will they be available? Can they work weekends if they have, a whole family? Do you get me? Versus if you're single, I'm like, okay, they can do the
Yeah, I
job
got
because,
you.
yeah, they're available. They can put in 60 hours a week, so you don't want to put anything that's going to disqualify you just from an employer looking at your CV. Yeah, so that's how those things can work against you. Because I mean, some people put their political affiliations. If I'm NPP and you're NDC, I may not hire you because you're NDC. So certain things, certain personal information, you do not need to include on your CV. It doesn't get you a chance.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you very much, please.
You're very welcome. I remember we had a client who said, a Nigerian client, they want someone who, and they had it on the CV when the job description when they sent it to us. They want someone who is God-fearing, a Christian. So right away you're like, if you're Muslim, then you can't get the job. We don't put things like that on the job description, right? But when we interview candidates, we have to keep those things in mind. right? The client wants somebody. So we have ways of asking questions that are not discriminatory. I'm not going to ask you, are you a Christian or are you a Muslim? Like, those are discriminatory questions. So I cannot ask that. But when I'm interviewing, I have to keep it in mind that they want somebody who believes in God. They're God-fearing. So what questions am I going to ask that's going to tell me that?
Yeah, great. We have a comment from Facebook that just says, that's a great point, Rita. I suppose because of the informal nature of the kinds of work that the youth are likely to engage in while at school, they don't necessarily translate that onto their CVs. That's one comment from Facebook. I didn't catch the name. Right, so next question then. We've talked about ideally the length of the CV. Let's look at the format then. So we know, as we said, people normally put their personal details at the top. Do you then have to do like a short personal statement and then education and work experience? What order does the CV need to be in? Again, if you're entry level type career.
Sure. The first thing I look for obviously is an objective, right? Why are you applying for the job? So when you put together your objective, it's not, I want this job so I can better myself and learn new skills. It's not about you. It's about what you are going to offer the employer, right? So I have 5 years accounting experience. I want to be able to, help this company like save money and use their budget effectively. Like, that's what are you coming to do for us? So the first thing I look for is your objective, and then you can have your educational requirements or you can have your experience, right? Experience, you want to start with your most recent job. If you're currently working, list that, right? But you want to have your most recent jobs. And remember, like I said, the jobs that you list, I don't want to see 10 jobs that you've had. That does not look good on a CV, because it's going to tell me that this person hops around from job to job. I want to see your top 3 to 5 jobs, and it should pertain to the position that you're applying for. Under the jobs, you want to list your responsibilities. What did you do while you were working in this role, right? And then I want to see your qualifications. What certificates do you have? What awards or what achievements have you had within your lifetime? When you're a student, there's so much. I mean, students win awards all the time. They are part of, organizations, right? Were you a school a class prefect? Like, I want to know those things, right? And then your reference. So reference, we don't usually list them, because if you list it, that's about half a page. Reference, you can just say available upon request, because if you're considered for employment, the client is going to ask you, or the employer is going to ask you to submit your list of references that they can call. Yeah, so that's pretty much what a typical CV would look like.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. We have another question
Sure.
pertaining to changing fields or changing sectors. So if someone wants to change fields from administration into education, for example, how best can you show the ability to do the job aside from getting qualifications?
Well, look back at your responsibilities when you were in the administrative role. Like, did you do anything that can translate to that job in education? You have to be, I don't want to say lie on your CV. You don't have to lie, but there's really a way that you can structure your CV and keywords that you can use to make yourself marketable to the employer. So look to those skills that you had in that administrative role and see how best you can phrase it, what keywords you can use that's going to make you a suitable candidate for that role in education. All right. And if you have, it's always good to have references on hand, people who can vouch for you and say, yeah, they can do the job. They've done this for this many years. But yeah, you definitely want to just be able to transfer or translate your skills.
Okay, and if you're not listing all your careers on the CV because it's not relevant to the role that you're transitioning to, how then, what's the best way to account for the blank years that you may have in your journey?
you can explain that once you get to the interview. You know, you can explain that. I mean, as a recruiter, if I see blank, it's not necessarily going to, it's going to make me curious. It's not going to stop me from interviewing a candidate who has the experience, right? Because I would assume that they left it out because they did something that probably they didn't want to put there because it didn't suit the position that they're applying for. You know, so at the interview, you will get a chance to explain that when they get to that point and then they ask you why you didn't work for 3 or 4 years. You could just say that I didn't feel that position was relevant to have on my CV.
Okay, that's great. So it will not necessarily disqualify you from being interviewed if the relevant experience listed is still relevant for the job that you're applying for. Okay, excellent.
Exactly.
Sheila, I did see your hand up. It's gone down. Did you?
Yes, I wanted to ask something, but I'm a bit confused if the question she answered answers it. So I'll just say it and see if it answers it. I just wanted to ask, for entry-level jobs, you were talking about job changing careers and how to make your CV suit that. But my question is more for people that just came out of undergrad. In this case, you've never had a job. Your only experience is probably internships. How do you navigate around something like that with that?
An internship is an experience, okay? Working at your mom's corner market is an experience. As far as I'm concerned, helping your dad wash the car is an experience. The key is, how are you going to convince me that that was a skill, right? So you have to, there are keywords that recruiters and employers look for when we are reviewing CVs. We are in that digital era where you can research and Google your way through everything. Find some of those keywords and use them to really say what it is that you want to communicate, right? Let me know what you've done. I don't need to know that you helped your dad wash the car, but you know, you were an assistant to something if you're helping him. Do you get me? So there is a way that an internship is one of the most relevant experiences that you can put on your CV. Volunteering is also one of the most relevant, because if you volunteer, you intern, it shows me that you care enough about your career to have invested. You may not have been paid, you know, but you got that experience. You cared enough about your career progression to have interned or to have volunteered, and that means a lot. So you want to put those on there. You know, were you president of any organizations? Were you secretary of any organizations? I mentioned like throwing a party in school before. You know, you can use that on your CV and have it, you know, just look more like an experience. It's all about how you phrase it yourself. But I often hear new graduates say, "Oh, but I don't have the experience." Of course you do. If you went to university, you have some level of experience, but you have to identify that and then find a way to communicate it to the recruiter.
Great. Does that answer your question, Sheila? Or do you have a follow-on question?
And I have to apologize. I wish
it does, but
sorry.
I'm still a bit iffy about it because I think being Ghanaian and the Ghanaian climate, I don't know how things are for recruiters here, but I always often hear that sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
No, we're listening to your follow-on question. Carry on.
Yes, I don't know if it's just me, but I always often hear even national service does not qualify as experience here, and it's always if you've had an actual job. So I just wanted to know if it's like a culture thing. I really don't know if that can translate here in Ghana.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a culture thing. I'll probably say it's a recruiter thing. And then it's also based on the level of experience that they're looking for. You know, sometimes we're looking for somebody to fill a mid to senior level role. But I look at your CV based on internship, national service, it tells me that you're entry level, right? So I'm not saying that if you find ways to list your experiences that it's going to get you the job. You know, I'm saying that it's going to help you if it's a role that you are suited for. If I'm looking for an entry level, if I'm filling an entry level role, of course I'll consider someone who has done their national service or someone who's done an internship. But I will not consider someone who's done their national service or internship for mid to senior role, because that actually requires you to have worked, in some for a company for a specific amount of time. So all of that would be stated in the job description. And it's a good point that you brought up, because when we publish jobs, we could get like 100 CVs based on the position. And it's literally people who are just applying because they need a job and they want to try their luck. I want to encourage you to not be that person, right? When you're looking for a job, right? Know what it is that you're looking for. Write it down. What do you want? What kind of company or organization do you want to work for? Do your research on the companies. Don't just apply because it's available. Make yourself marketable. We have a few candidates who, if I post a job and I see his CV, I'm like, Ata applies for every job. It makes me not take him serious, because I'm like, why are you applying for every job? Do you not know what you want? Do you not know what you want to do? So you have to really find the positions that are for you. If you're entry level, look for entry level. Try your hand at a mid level if you think you're going to qualify, but stick to the roles that are specifically for you. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Good. Good.
Right. We do have a couple of other questions in the chat. So this is one from Mike. Is the CV restricted by location? And does the Western setting look out for certain details in a CV that may differ slightly from, say, a Ghanaian one?
Well, so like I mentioned, so the CV is more the UK, the British way of putting together your credentials, where in the US is the resume. So I know in UK it's more detailed, right? And in Ghana, we have adapted that style of CV where it's a little bit more detailed. But what I was mentioned earlier is that there's certain information you don't necessarily need to include. So yes, the CV in Ghana is quite different from the CV in the US or the resume. But what I want to say is right now it's a global market, right? It's a global market. If you don't necessarily, you can live in Ghana and provide services by leveraging technology to some company in like the US. That's the world that we live in now. If you're in Ghana and you're applying for a job in the US, I would advise you to do your research and find out what the standard resume would look like, right? And then you want to adjust your CV to fit that market where you're applying for a job. So yeah, I think it would differ based on, location.
Okay, so following up on that, statistically, you see a lot of CVs, you recruit for a lot of clients. What's the probability of a Ghanaian candidate successfully being recruited for an international role, whatever level that may be?
I think it depends. In Ghana, you often hear a lot about the expatriate role, which is employers bringing, employees from abroad, from various countries. But it can work the other way. I think it happens more the expatriate way that recruiting from being in Ghana, recruiting from abroad, than it would happen like being in US and recruiting for Ghana. But like I said, we are in this digital era where employers are looking for talent wherever they could find it, especially because the job market now has become scarce. Since the pandemic happened, a lot of people left jobs, they're not going back. So a lot of employers in the West are, they're desperate, like they need workers. And if you could really market yourself and provide services from where you are using your laptop, then why not? Why not? But I wouldn't know the probability, but I just know that it's possible. I want to say that it is highly possible. We have a little friend in the back.
Okay, so there's another question.
Sure.
What's the biggest difference, positive or negative, between hiring in Ghana and hiring international companies? I don't know if you mean hiring for local companies in Ghana and hiring for international companies in Ghana. I think that's probably what they...
Yeah, so the difference is that here our whole recruitment process is streamlined and is digital, right? Like I've not met any candidate that I've recruited here in the US. In Ghana, the employer might expect you to meet them at least during that final stage of the interview. You know, so our recruitment process works there, but that human component, you know, I mentioned that earlier. It's like Ghana, we want to see you, we want to have conversation. And also, I've talked to a lot of recruiters. We did a virtual recruitment webinar, and a lot of HR professionals and recruiters wanted to learn that whole like virtual process of recruiting, you know, which it made me happy because it made me realize that, wow, like HR professionals actually want to leverage technology to be able to do the job. And it's possible, you know, but definitely I think that the virtual way of work is more receptive here than it probably is in Ghana.
Great, thanks for clarifying that. So again, I just pause in here to say this is Gheeks by the Fireside, brought to you by GH Scientific. And on the call with me tonight is Rita Kusi, a senior consultant at a boutique international digital human resource and marketing company. And I'm Hephzi Tagoe, co-founder GH Scientific, and we're discussing careers, recruitment, CVs, job prospects, all things employment in tonight's call. We have about 10 minutes left for the conversation. If anyone on Zoom or Facebook has any questions, do please unmute and ask, or you can put them in the chat whilst we carry on the conversation.
And I have to apologize to you guys because I thought I would be home in front of my laptop, and it's a nice day in New York. I got invited to a brunch, and I can't miss it because it's for a very good friend of mine. So I'm outside. I'm still committed to making sure that we get through this call. So I'm enjoying our talk.
Yeah, great. Much. Thanks for sharing up all the same. It's been a great conversation.
Sure.
But, let's move on forward a little bit to the mid and senior level careers, and we've covered the entry levels quite a bit because of predominantly the audience that we have. But as we're live on Facebook, so more mid to senior level careers, do you tend to not job hunt? What's the word? Talent hunt rather than letting candidates apply for CVs? How does that usually work? Do you spend your life on LinkedIn? Where would you be looking?
I love that. I spend a lot of my life on LinkedIn. I think it depends on the role. You know, some roles are actually harder to fill. So you have to become strategic, right? Because for us, it's like fill the job by any means necessary. So we are poaching, which you do through headhunting. We are listing on various platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, you know, researching people with like keywords who I feel may fit the role. So what we do is we actually build through the virtual recruitment process. What we do is we build talent pipelines, right? So if we interview you for a job and you don't get that position, but we think you are a great candidate, we don't just send you on your way and you never hear from us. We have a database where we'll put your information, keep you in that database. If anything comes up, any positions that we feel, hey, this person would qualify, then we would go back to that database, you know. But yeah, you just have to be strategic. We use all kinds of means, but mostly we do publish the role. So we publish on Business Ghana, sometimes on Jobberman, you know, on our website, across social media, mainly LinkedIn. We publish on LinkedIn. So yeah, so for those senior roles, depending on where you are looking for the individual, like you have to get creative, and also depending on the position that you are recruiting for.
Yeah. And another school of thoughts, especially in the Ghana market, I think it's everywhere actually, that you tend to get the best jobs through who you know. How true or false is that concept?
I think that that's changed a lot. That it was very true, and it still is, right? Because especially in Ghana, I was hearing that a lot when I first came to Ghana. You know, a lot of candidates were feeling hopeless because they're like, oh, I won't get the job because somebody's gonna hire their relative or but I think a lot of employers have realized that your friend or your relative or they may not be the ones to do the job. You know, at the end of the day, you have an objective for your business, and it's really whoever is going to come in and help you meet that objective. So it is true to a certain extent, but I think that it's changed quite a lot, that employers are actually open to not just hiring people they know, but you know, just going out and really finding the best talent, the best suited candidates for the position.
Right, so there's some encouraging news for anyone who may be feeling they haven't got to connect to get into that dream job of theirs.
Yeah. First of all, like you have to have a positive mindset when you're applying, right? Like if you apply for this job and I know this job is mine. Like that's that mindset that you have to, and then you have to do any and everything to make sure that you get the job, right? Not any and everything, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Hello,
You have to do your best. Do your best to get the job.
Don't stalk the recruiter. Don't stalk the recruiter. Any and everything, but not stalking. So yes, thinking about anything and everything. How much effort does a candidate need to put in? So you see a job, you applied for it, and you did share at the start of the call that the day that you called to follow up on your initial role, that's when your boss was looking at your CV. So
Yeah.
how active does a candidate need to be when they're looking for employment beyond submitting a CV?
Okay. So usually when you submit, some employers will tell you, don't call us, we'll call you. So you definitely want to, you can check in, you can follow up, but don't be that person who, there's a difference between being persistent and then being annoying. Like you don't want to be annoying, but you want to be persistent. You want to show the recruiter that I care enough to follow up. You know, but I think you can get a sense from the recruiter when maybe you're calling too much. If they say, you know what, we're at this stage, give them time to finish the stage that they're in. And then once you know they're at a stage where it's okay to call them when they're making the decisions, then by all means do that. You know, but if they say don't call us, don't call. You know, maybe send an email, right? I would prefer an email than, you know, but I don't mind getting phone calls from candidates who want to follow up on their application. Just don't like overdo it.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we have 5 minutes left to end this call. So that's a final call for any questions anyone has, whether on the Zoom or on Facebook. So another question then from our end. Let's talk about average salary expectations. For entry level graduates. What should be the average salary expectations for the role that they may be looking to go into?
See, that's a hard question for me to like give a number to, right? Because it depends. It depends. Interesting enough, every time we ask that salary question, candidates, they'll laugh or they'll shy away or they'll get very awkward. Their body will get really tense. There's nothing wrong with you asking what the salary for a role commands. Okay, it is your right to actually ask that question. And then if it's within your salary range, you accept it or you, the thing about applying for a job is you have to do research. It's so, I don't know why I wasn't standing here all this time. It's, the sun's not in my face. But you have to do your research, okay? If you are applying for an entry level accountant position, what does it pay in the industry? And it's not just a general like accountant, but if you're applying for an accountant for an IT company that's been around for 10 years, you want to do your research and find competitors to that company and try to find out what accountants in that position for that's a company in that industry and a company that has existed for that length of time, what are they commanding? okay? Don't just, I remember one time I interviewed, she was an entry level, and I asked her salary expectations, and she quoted like something really ridiculous. And I knew it was ridiculous because she'd not done her research. She gave me a range that was for mid or senior level. And right then and there, I was turned off because I said, this girl definitely didn't do her research. And it was unfortunate, right? Because don't just quote it because you feel you deserve it, or you woke up and I think I want this salary. There's a technique to it when you are demanding your salary, right? You have to do your research. What are those in that industry, those with that level of experience, and those in that position, like what are they commanding? And then you use that to provide a range. The employer will usually give a range, right? Maybe like 1,500 Ghana to 1,500 to maybe 2,500 basic. You want to obviously get on the higher end, right? If I can get the 2,500, I want that, right? But it's based on experience, and it's also based on what you can offer the employer, like what value can you bring to that organization. So it's a technique when you are requesting salary. All right, but most of the time the employer will list it on the job description. If it's not listed, it's your right to ask what that salary commands. Or what that job commands.
Right, we'll take a final question if no other hands go up or messages come in the chat, and that is from Neo Kaijo. You can ask your question.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, so with respect to the salary conversation, just wanted to ask who should go first. So me looking for a job, asking how much they're offering, or I say how much I expect to be paid.
Well, you want to ask them, what does the job offer, right? And if you're not happy with that, if you feel it should be a little bit more based on your research and based on your experience level, then you can do a counter offer. You can propose the salary, but you have to let the recruiter know why. So usually it would say like, I do feel that I deserve maybe 5,000 Ghana because I have 10 years of experience, and working for this company, I've been able to help them achieve, A, B, C, D. So part of our process. So when we do recruitment, we have an interview questionnaire that we have all candidates complete before we even do a virtual interview. And one of the questions we have on there is, what are your salary expectations? So we do list the salaries on the jobs for the most part, especially for the clients in the US. We list the salary. And when a candidate's expectations are higher, my first question when I begin the interview, before I even say anything else, is your salary expectations negotiable? Because if it's not negotiable, this is what the client is offering, we may not even have that interview. If it's not negotiable, but it's slightly higher, I will interview you. If it's not negotiable, but your expectations are way high, I won't interview you because I know the client is not going to come up more than slightly, right? So if the salary is not stated on the job description, you can ask. You have every right to ask during the interview. I would suggest you save that question for the very end of your interview, because by then you have showed the employer the value that you could bring for the organization. So if they want you bad enough, they will match your salary expectations. All right. So you can ask that. I actually love when candidates ask that question, because then to me, you're not just looking for a job, but you want a career, you care about your salary. And yeah, so you can ask that question.
Great. Joseph's got his hand up again. So Joseph, you can ask your question.
All right, thank you very much. Just with the last point that you just made about the fact that there's nothing wrong actually asking about the salary structure. Relatively, taking into consideration our job challenges in Africa, especially Ghana, that we are situated, wouldn't that look like I mean, you didn't even get a job and you are trying to find out how much you will be paid. I'm talking in a sense that, fine, it's very difficult to secure a job here. So sometimes I'm thinking in a way that would rather sound as if you are trying to be money conscious. I'm just trying to find out
No.
if that
I
was.
know exactly. I know exactly what you're referring to, and this is why a lot of candidates, applicants, are afraid to ask. Because they feel like they're being ungrateful. It's like you're giving me the job. I should be happy regardless of what you're giving me, and that is the wrong mindset. If I'm gonna get a job, I need to know what I'm going to be paid, and I need to weigh my options and say that this is worth my time, right? Because it's an exchange for services, right? Like I'm getting paid for coming to work for you. I'm not coming to do the job for free. So no, it's not going to make you ungrateful. It's not going to make you seem away. I don't want you to feel like, because that's how I feel like candidates feel in Ghana. So when I ask them that question, they do kind of like, oh, should I answer? Is it okay to answer? Of course, it's okay to answer. Why should you start a job not knowing how much it pays? Right? Like they have to give you that option to say, I decline it because the salary expectations just don't work for me. I have a family, I have kids who have to go to school. Know what it is that you're willing to accept. And that question to me is key. And is one of the questions that you all must ask. Okay, even if it's
All right.
an internship, does it come with any benefits? Because sometimes internships, they'll pay for your transportation, they'll give you a stipend, so you're working for free, but your expenses, the expenses that you incur are covered by the company. So you have to ask, not just salary, but what benefits are included. Am I getting healthcare, medical coverage? Are you paying my SNP? What is included? So yes, please ask that question. Okay.
Great. And finally, Aurelia might have a question or comment.
Okay. I'm gonna have to jump, head out in like 2 minutes. We have to do this again, by the way. We really do, because I've been excited about it, but it's just unfortunate that I'm like out here now. But we have to have a second part to this conversation.
Great. We will take you up on that offer because certainly it's one of the popular requests that we get from our membership community.
Sure.
So Rita's going to jump off. Did Aurelia want to ask a question quickly, or are we
Sure.
Zoom?
Sure. I'll take another question.
Hi, Dr. Hephzi. Thank you. And thank you very much, Rita. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you. And I'm really just going to piggyback off that question about what, in terms of remuneration, what candidates should be asking. And I really just want to know your position on paid internships, right? So sometimes I've got students and I've got to put them on internship placements, right? And the cost of living in Ghana, right? So I want to think from the employer's point of view, right? Or perhaps from your point of view, what do you think about unpaid internships? You've just mentioned about stipends that cover, let's say, transportation costs, et cetera, because I find that even unpaid internship, it's sort of a privilege because it isn't everyone that can afford. I may want to, but I can't afford to do it. And so perhaps a second part of that question would be, how do candidates work their way around interning that doesn't affect them, such that the costs, isn't too much for them? Thank you very much.
No, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. So you have to weigh your options when you're applying for an internship. It's just like you applying for a job, right? What are you able or capable of doing? Are you fine paying for your transportation? Is it not going to affect you financially? Then yeah, take the internship. If you really want the internship and you could find a way to finance any additional expenses that come with it, then I would advise you to take it because internships are good and they look good on your CV. But in a lot of the cases, employers will cover the basic costs, right? So just transportation and maybe even feeding, right? So you want to ask those questions. You may not be getting paid, which is fine. You don't need to get a salary from an internship. That's not the point of an internship. An internship is designed so you can go and learn, upskill, you know, just really work on yourself and your experience. So what is it that you, as a candidate, right, or as an applicant, what are you willing to sacrifice? What can you sacrifice to really make sure that you succeed in this internship? Not all internships are paid. If you're lucky, some of them are paid. If you're lucky, you get a stipend for transportation, but it may not be the case necessarily. So what are you willing to compromise?
Great, thanks, Rita. I think we will let you go because it's actually a little
No
bit
problem.
for. Much appreciate your time tonight, and
My
we will
pleasure.
be in touch and see what we can do about a follow-on conversation. Enjoy
No
your
problem.
and
Thank you. You are also welcome. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, we have to do this again. Okay.
excellence. Will do. Take care.
You
Bye.
too. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. So for anyone who is live with us on the Zoom and was on the Facebook Live as well, we've just been in conversation with Rita Kusi. She's a senior consultant at a boutique international digital human resource and marketing company with over 18 years in the industry, recruiting internationally, based in Ghana and in the States as well. So we've had some really good insights into the job market, CVs, entry level, mid-level, and we hope you've got some value. If you're not part of the GH Scientific community, be sure to sign up to our membership. It is free. We have a WhatsApp broadcast list that has a lot of gems and information and useful resources for anyone at whatever level you may be on your career journey, and lots of opportunities as well to come your way. We are, of course, on all major social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, at GH Scientific, and our website, ghscientific.com. So if there are no further questions, Rita is not here anyway, we're going to say goodbye and good night, and thank you all for jumping on the call tonight. Until the next edition, it's goodbye from myself and all the team at GH Scientific.